Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're going way back in time, back to 1840, the year the world got its first adhesive postage stamp, the penny black.
You know, it's funny, the penny black might seem kind of ordinary now, but back then it was revolutionary.
I can imagine. I mean, think about it. How did people even send letters before stamps?
Well, you'd send a letter, and the person receiving it would have to pay for it. And the price, oh, it depended on how far it traveled. And get this, how many pages it had.
So it wasn't just the distance, but like a 5-page letter would cost you more than a 1-page letter.
Exactly. Can you imagine?
That's wild. Talk about an unwelcome surprise when the mail arrives.
Right. And think about businesses. Trying to coordinate anything must have been a nightmare. So along comes Sir Rowland Hill in 1837.
And this Sir Rowland Hill, he's the one with the big idea, right? The prepaid stamp.
That's him. He presents this idea to the government, a fixed price for letters under a certain weight, no matter how far they go.
So simple, but so brilliant.
Right. And the best part, they give him a 2-year contract to make it happen.
2 years to change the entire postal system? That's a pretty tight deadline.
It was, but they got it done. And, you know, they didn't just slap a design together. They held a design competition.
A design competition, wow. So, like, anyone could submit ideas for the stamp.
Over 2,600 entries came in.
Wow, that's a lot of stamps.
Hmm.
So what happened? Did they pick a winner?
Well, none of the entries quite hit the mark, so they ended up using a design endorsed by Rowland Hill himself.
Okay, I'm on the edge of my seat. Which design did he pick?
The iconic profile of Queen Victoria.
That makes sense. The classic British stamp look. I always wondered why British stamps have that distinctive look. So Rowland Hill chose Queen Victoria's profile. Was there a specific reason? Or was it just because she was the queen?
Hill believed her profile would be incredibly difficult to forge, to prevent counterfeiting.
Smart. And I guess he was right, because British stamps are still pretty tough to fake, right?
He was. Forging British stamps is no easy feat, even today, thanks in part to that design choice.
It's amazing how much thought went into it, even back then.
Absolutely. They were really thinking ahead.
All right, let's dive into the penny black itself. Tell me, what were some of its key features?
Well, practicality was key. They had to make sure it worked on envelopes. So they landed on roughly 34-inch wide by 78-inch tall. Enough space for writing addresses,
So they really thought of everything. It wasn't just about the looks, but how it functioned, too.
Exactly. And of course, they had to make it clear what it was. So they put the words postage and 1 penny right on it.
So people wouldn't mistake it for, like, a sticker or something.
Kinda. Actually, back then, they did have other types of stamps called revenue stamps.
Wait, so they had stamps before the penny black, but not for mail?
Exactly. Those revenue stamps were for things like legal documents, official transactions,
Oh, interesting. So those words, postage and 1 penny, were really important. So people knew exactly what they were paying for.
That's right. It made it crystal clear this is for postage, and it cost 1 penny.
Makes sense. Now, looking at the penny black, it's a pretty intricate design, isn't it? All those fine details.
Oh, absolutely. There's a lot more to it than you might think at first glance. There's this finely engraved background with these intricate patterns called engine turnings.
Engine turnings, what are those exactly?
They're these really precise repeating patterns. They add this beautiful texture to the stamp, and they were also a security feature.
So another way to make it hard to forge. Smart thinking.
Then in the upper corners, you have these Maltese crosses with these radiant sun-like discs in the center.
So they were going for a kind of regal look, I guess.
Exactly. And finally, if you look closely at the lower corners, you'll see letters.
Letters, what were those for? Some kind of secret code.
Not quite a secret code, but they did serve a purpose. They indicated the stamp's position on the printed sheet.
So each stamp had its own unique code, like a fingerprint. That's incredible attention to detail. How many stamps were on a sheet anyway?
Each sheet had 240 stamps, arranged in 20 rows and 12 columns, all printed in black ink by a company called Perkins Bacon.
Wow, can you imagine printing 240 stamps on a single sheet back then?
Yeah.
That must have been quite a feat.
It was. And speaking of sheets, do you know how much a full sheet of penny blacks cost?
I have no idea. Tell me, how much would it set you back?
A full sheet cost £1, which was 240 pence.
So 1 penny per stamp. Makes sense. But what if you didn't need a whole sheet? Could you buy just a few?
Of course. You could get a single row, 12 stamps, for $1.
So there were options for everyone. Okay, so we've got this innovative new stamp. It's designed, it's printed. I'm guessing the rollout didn't go exactly as planned.
You know, it's funny you say that. The official issue date was May 6th, 1840. But some post offices just couldn't wait.
They jumped the gun.
They did. Some, especially in Bath, started selling them unofficially before the official release date.
No way. So there are penny blacks out there with dates before May 6th.
Yep. We even have what we call covers, which are the envelopes with the stamps and postmarks, dated as early as May 2nd.
Wow, that's amazing. A true collector's item. So even with all that meticulous planning and design, there were still some hiccups along the way.
Definitely. I mean, this was the first time anyone tried anything like this. They were bound to encounter some unexpected challenges.
Like what? What kind of challenges did they run into?
Believe it or not, one of the biggest challenges was the cancellation ink.
The ink they used to mark the stamp as used. What was wrong with it?
Well, they used red ink, which was a bit hard to see on a black stamp, but more importantly, it was easy to remove.
Oh no. So people could just wipe it off and reuse the stamp.
Exactly. And it didn't take long for people to figure that out, unfortunately.
That's a major design flaw. So how did they fix it?
They had to make a change. They introduced the penny red in February 1841, and they switched to black cancellation ink.
Ah, so that's why they changed the color.
Oh.
Problem solved, right?
Well, not quite. Even with black ink, people were getting creative. They'd find ways to combine the uncanceled parts of two partially canceled stamps.
So they're making like a Frankenstein stamp out of two old ones.
Pretty much. They were determined to get their money's worth.
Wow, people were crafty. I guess that's why they say necessity is the mother of invention. So did they finally manage to outsmart the forgers?
They did eventually. In 1864, they added another layer of security. They replaced those Maltese crosses in the upper corners with check letters.
Check letters. What are those?
They're reverse letters, basically. It made it nearly impossible to combine two partially canceled stamps anymore.
Ah, so that was the final piece of the puzzle. They finally had a truly foolproof design. I'm curious just how many of these penny blacks were actually printed. Given their short lifespan, I'd imagine they're pretty rare.
Well, prepare yourself, because they printed a massive 68,808,000 penny black stamps.
Wow, that's a lot of stamps. No wonder they're so popular with collectors.
It is. They used 11 printing plates to do it, but plate 1 had to be reworked because of wear and tear.
So they essentially had 12 plates, if you count the reworked one.
Exactly. And speaking of rarity, those printed from plate 11 are quite sought after.
Why is that?
Well, plate 11 was originally meant for the penny red, but they ended up producing a small number in black.
So a bit of a printing mishap turned into a collector's dream. That's incredible. Now, I know the stamps were printed in sheets without perforations, so collectors really prize those with clean, well-cut margins.
Oh, absolutely. Imagine cutting out 68 million tiny stamps with scissors. There were bound to be some uneven edges.
I can only imagine. It's amazing to think of those early postal workers meticulously cutting out all those stamps. Speaking of which, are used penny blacks still accessible to collectors today, or are they locked away in museums?
You might be surprised, but used penny blacks are readily available.
Really? So even someone like me could own a piece of postal history?
Exactly. While mint condition ones can be quite pricey, used ones are much more affordable.
That's good to know. Of course, I imagine those pristine, full sheets are a whole other story.
Oh, absolutely. The only known complete sheets are owned by the British Postal Museum.
Safe and sound behind glass. I can picture those museum curators carefully dusting them off every day. Now, before we move on to the penny black's impact on society, there's one more detail I wanted to touch on. The VR official stamp.
Ah, yes. The VR official was basically the penny black's sibling, intended specifically for official mail.
So like government mail and things like that.
Exactly. Instead of the Maltese crosses in the upper corners, it had a V and an R for Victoria Regina, Latin for Queen Victoria.
So it had a special designation to set it apart. But if it was for official use, I'd imagine they would have needed a lot of them. Why didn't it catch on?
Well, it seems the public embraced those regular penny black stamps with such enthusiasm there wasn't much need for a separate official stamp. Plus, there was a surplus of something called Mulready stationery.
Mulready stationery? What on earth is that?
Think of it like a prepaid envelope designed by William Mulready, a pretty famous artist at the time. They introduced it alongside the penny black, but it never really took off the way the stamps did.
Ah, so they already had these prepaid envelopes, and then the public went crazy for the stamps. What happened to all those VR official stamps?
Postally used examples are incredibly rare, probably mostly from post office circulars announcing the new stamp system. We only know of 4 that were actually used on letters.
Only 4. Wow, so those are incredibly valuable, I'd imagine.
They are, but unfortunately, they were cut from their envelopes and later reattached. Most of the canceled ones you find are from trials, with different cancellations and inks, trying to find the best way to prevent reuse.
So even the mistakes and experiments are valuable to collectors. It sounds like those early days of the penny black were a whirlwind of innovation, trial and error, and a whole lot of public enthusiasm.
That's a perfect way to put it. The penny black story is more than just a historical footnote. It shows human ingenuity, the desire to connect.
And that drive to find better ways to communicate has led us to where we are today. But we'll dive into that more in part 2. Welcome back to the deep dive. We're picking up where we left off with the penny black. Now, we talked about all the technical stuff, the design, the printing, but what was the real impact of this little stamp? I mean, beyond just making mail cheaper.
It's not an exaggeration to say the penny black changed everything. It democratized communication.
Democratized, so like made it accessible to everyone.
Exactly. Before the penny black, sending letters was a luxury, only for the wealthy.
Right, because of those high costs we talked about.
Yeah.
If you never knew how much it would cost to send a letter, well, you'd probably think twice before doing it.
Exactly. Especially if you weren't well off. But then, boom, standardized, affordable rate, everyone could stay in touch.
So families spread across the country could finally communicate easily.
Exactly. Businesses could coordinate more efficiently. The flow of information, ideas, it all just exploded.
It's like the penny black gave everyone a voice, right?
Yeah, it did. And it had other amazing effects, too. For one, literacy rates went up.
Really?
Because of a stamp. People had a reason to learn to read and write, to stay in touch with loved ones, to do business.
So this tiny stamp actually helped create a more informed society. I never would have guessed that.
It's amazing, isn't it? A small change leading to such a huge impact. And it makes you wonder, what if it never happened?
What if the penny black never existed?
Would we still have that tradition of letter writing? Would we have jumped to other forms of communication sooner?
Would we have telegrams and telephones earlier?
Maybe. It's hard to say.
It is. I mean, it's hard to imagine a world without email or texting now, but back then...
The penny black was the closest thing they had.
Right. It wasn't just about efficiency. It was about connecting people.
And, speaking of connecting people, the penny black had a huge impact on another thing.
What's that?
Stamp collecting.
Oh, of course. Philately, right.
That's it. For philatelists, the penny black is like the holy grail.
The first of its kind. A piece of history you can actually hold in your hand.
Exactly. And for collectors, it's not just about the money. It's a connection to the past. Imagine holding something that was used over 180 years ago.
That's incredible. It's like holding a piece of a letter that Queen Victoria might have sent.
Who knows? Maybe you are. Now, speaking of the penny black's design, those intricate details we talked about? Those weren't just for looks.
The engine turnings, the Maltese crosses.
Exactly. They had a purpose. Remember how we talked about people trying to reuse the stamps? Well, those engine turnings...
He made it harder to forge, right?
Exactly. Another layer of security. And those Maltese crosses, well, along with those corner letters, they were like identifiers.
Identifier.
They helped track the stamps to prevent counterfeiting, made sure each one was unique.
Wow, they really thought of everything.
They did. It's a testament to the craftsmanship of that era. We don't see that kind of detail as much anymore.
It's true. Everything's mass-produced these days. I'd love to see the penny black up close sometime with a magnifying glass.
Me too. There's something so fascinating about those tiny details. So we've covered the origins, the challenges, the impact on society, even stamp collecting. But there's one key figure we haven't really talked about.
Queen Victoria.
Yes. Her image was crucial to the penny black's success.
It was more than just a design choice, wasn't it?
Much more. It was a symbol of authority, legitimacy, national pride.
It gave the stamp instant credibility. And I bet it boosted her popularity, too, having her face on millions of these little stamps.
I certainly didn't hurt. And, she didn't just pose for the stamp. She actually used them.
Queen Victoria used the penny black.
Oh, yeah. She was a big fan of the postal system, just like everyone else.
I wonder if she ever realized how much her image on that tiny stamp would come to mean.
It's a great thought. And, it makes her seem more relatable, doesn't it? A queen using the same postal system as her subjects.
It really does. And it just goes to show the penny black truly connected everyone. But you know what? We'll have to save the rest of this story for part 3. Welcome back to the deep dive. We're wrapping up our look at the penny black. And, there's one thing I've been wondering about. We've talked about Queen Victoria's image being on the stamp. But did she actually use them? like herself?
That's a great question. And it reminds us that even monarchs, use the postal system. And yes, Queen Victoria absolutely used the penny black.
So there are envelopes out there with the penny black sent by the Queen.
There are. We don't have records of every letter, of course. But there are examples that survived, sent right from the royal household.
Wow. Can you imagine owning a piece of mail sent by Queen Victoria? Those must be worth a fortune to collectors.
Oh, they are. And not just for the money. They give us a glimpse into Queen Victoria's life, how she used this new technology.
It's kind of cool to think about her, sitting at her desk, putting a penny black on a letter, just like everyone else.
It is. It makes her seem more human.
It does. What do you think she wrote about in those letters?
It's fun to think about, right? Maybe she was sending instructions to her ministers. Or maybe gossiping with a friend about a new play.
Or maybe a love letter to Prince Albert.
Maybe. Who knows? But it shows you the penny black really did connect everyone.
It did. It broke down those social barriers, and it made communication, well, it made it normal for everyone.
Exactly. And it's amazing to think, how did we get from that little black stamp to the emails and texts we have today?
It's a long way from a penny black to a smartphone.
It is. But the penny black, it laid the groundwork for so much of what we have now.
In what way? How do you mean?
Well, first, it established the idea of a prepaid system, a standard price, no matter how far your message goes.
That's true. We don't even think about the cost of sending an email. It's just there.
Exactly. And second, the penny black led to those huge postal networks, all those routes, sorting systems. They created the model for the communication systems we still use today.
It's like they were building the first internet without even knowing it.
Right. And maybe most important, the penny black created this culture of communication. It made people write letters, stay in touch, share their lives.
So it wasn't just a technology, it was a cultural shift.
Exactly. It changed how people thought about communication.
So the penny black, this tiny little stamp, it really did change the world.
It did. It shows you sometimes the smallest things can have the biggest impact.
That's a great point to end on. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the penny black. Until next time, keep exploring. And remember, even the smallest ideas can change the world.